All right, guys, welcome to this week's Management Moment, and I'm here with Stephen Chilcote. We are standing on the Penn State University research farms here out in State College, Pennsylvania. Stephen, today we're talking a little bit about food plot, what types of food plots people should be considering, and you've been doing a lot of work here. So where are we right now? What are we standing in, and how is this going to help a farmer or a hunter when it comes to managing?
This is a 800-acre research farm. There's a whole lot of different experimental things going on here, and they give me this little 2.5-acre field to mess around with. It's done through the QDMA.
Okay.
We can do some forestry work up in the woods there, and this is my experimental food plot area. So I try different things here and see what works, what doesn't work. What I'm trying to get into and get my clients into and get people thinking about is using cover crop cottails for food plots.
Now, what's the benefit of doing a cover crop as opposed to maybe just like a bean or a, we've got some sunflowers in here, you know, and staying just to one species of forage?
Well, there's a lot of reasons, but the main one is soil health. Anytime that you use a cover crop cottail, you're feeding the microbes and the mycorrhizal fungi that are down in the soil, and that's really what brings nutrients to your plants. Fertilizer is great, but you don't absolutely need fertilizer if you're not taking your crop away from the field. You should be able to create a system that feeds itself. So for soil health, cover crops are the way to go. And food plots are just a little bit different from ag in that we don't necessarily take our crop away. On that corn over there, somebody will cut that for silage, and all the nutrients that are in that corn are going to leave the property.
Okay.
Where here, the deer are eating here, the plants are dying and rotting away here, so all the nutrients should stay here.
So it keeps everything into the soil. It allows us to have that high nitrogen based soil where if we were to turn this, we're going to lose a lot of that nitrogen and a lot of that mineral that's in the soil.
Yeah, we're trying to go to cover crop no-till systems where you don't have to till. For one thing, it's expensive, time consuming, and it's really bad for your soil. You get erosion, you get dryness. If you have drought, this thing, it could not rain again for the rest of the year, and this will be fine because the ground is shaded and the roots are all different depths down into the ground. Different plants have different root systems.
Okay.
And the benefit of different root systems is that the different plants reach down to different depths, and they also collect different nutrients and bring them back to the surface to be used again next year.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the history of this field that you've got planted, that you've been working on now. It started off pretty much a burnt field, very dry.
Yeah, this field has a problem, and that is foxtail. This foxtail grass is very aggressive in the summertime. It has a tendency to sneak up on you because you think it's not there, but as soon as the weather gets hot and you're out working and you're doing other things in the summertime, you come back in the middle of July and you got foxtail up to here. So this got left go, and as you look out through there, you can see all the little seed heads.
Yes.
There's millions and millions of seeds
all over
out
the
there
place.
now. There's also millions of seeds in the soil. So what happened here was I had the research guys, I'm kind of at the mercy of the equipment here and the personnel here, and I just can request things, and when they come out and do it, it doesn't always get done when and how I really imagined that it should be. So what they did was they did a nice burn down, and we had a brown field, and it looked like our switchgrass was, or not our switchgrass, but our foxtail was dead. I meant to no-till this in, but somebody tilled it. And when they chisel plowed this, they created a perfect seed bed for foxtail to germinate again. So we got foxtail. We also have, besides the foxtail, we have crabgrass here, we have lamb's quarter, ragweed. Now, lamb's quarter and ragweed are not necessarily the worst thing because they are native forage for deer, and deer will eat them.
They will eat that,
as long as they're not taking over your field, you're fine. Foxtail has a tendency to really take things over.
It does, and it can smother out a lot of that seed that you're trying to plant down in there. It won't get the necessary sunlight and whatnot.
Takes up all the growing space.
Yeah, so there's not a lot. So you kind of did that, and even though we have a lot of that foxtail coming up, you've got a good variety of forage species in here. I mean, obviously the first one that we're seeing here is sunflower,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of benefits for sunflower.
Sunflower is a great soil building plant, and also the deer will eat the foliage, and then when the flower goes to seed, that seed provides food for bears, turkeys, deer, birds. Everything eats sunflowers. Plus it looks great, so
Yeah.
you know, you can't beat it. It gives you a real pretty looking food plot. Now in another place where I have this same mix, everything's kind of chewed on. We don't have a lot of deer pressure here, so it looks fairly good. But where deer are foraging, you'll see that all these are chewed off. However, they don't eat the flower. The flower usually makes it anyway. And what you can do is put in something like a pea that will climb up this long stem. Some of these sunflowers out here are 4 or 5 feet tall. Peas can climb those. Deer can eat the leaves. Then they can eat the seeds in the fall.
Now we've got the sunflower here. What other kind of a seed mix do we have in here? Obviously we see we've got some soybean, we've got some brassicas. Where we got radishes in here.
We have tillage radish, dwarf Essex rape, Phacelia, which didn't make it. I don't see it here, so that's okay. Buckwheat did not make it as well. And the thing with buckwheat is it's a terrific soil building plant, but I'm not going to use it in my spring mixes anymore because it doesn't really compete with cool season plants. It needs really hot weather to thrive. So the best thing to do with buckwheat is plant it in June when it gets hot. When it's 90 degrees out, that's when you want to plant that. And it'll be up and looking good in only 3 weeks. You can use it as a smother plant. You can use it as a soil builder, just to get some green on the ground. You know, for some reason you may not have things planted early in the spring. Maybe you had too much rain, or maybe you had a weed problem. You need to get that killed down. And then buckwheat would be a good thing to just cover your soil until fall when you plant your fall planting.
So this is, and talking about fall planting, this is basically a summer food crop. If you have the ability to rotate your food plots, this would be your summer blend.
Yeah.
And then going forward now, if someone has the ability, this is about, what is this, about an acre?
There's
half acre?
2 acres,
2 acres
in this same planting here.
Okay, so we're looking at this blend here, more of a summer, and then going into the fall, what time of the year? August, end of August, September, start to do like an overseed?
Right, we're approaching the end of August now. So you can do one of 2 things. You can just let this go, let the deer eat whatever's here, and then by winter time, probably by hunting season, this will be a biological desert again, because if you do have a deer population,
right.
We don't have a lot of pressure here because there's 800 acres of beautiful chow here for deer, and really not that many deer. But if you had this on a property that's out in the woods and you have a lot of deer coming to it, this will get wiped out by Christmas time. There won't be anything there for the whole winter. So better, if you have the budget and the time, better to get a seed drill now, like from now, late August to mid-September, and drill in your winter cover. Your winter covers, I like to use awnless winter wheat, and I like to use brassicas, of course. Everybody knows about brassicas. I like to put about 4 different kinds in my blend. And winter peas, Austrian winter peas, put them on heavy because they don't take up a lot of space, but they're great forage and they will stand up to a lot of cold weather. That'll be the first thing. It's going to green up early in the spring.
Exactly.
So now you have a field that'll feed deer. Deer can paw right down through the snow. The more snow you get, the better, because it'll insulate the plants and they'll continue to grow. They'll dig down and they'll get that winter wheat. And then in the spring it'll green up, and you'll have every deer in the world on that because nothing else is greened up yet. It greens up very early.
Right.
And then in the summer you'll have a seed head, and if you use awnless wheat, the deer will eat the seeds.
Exactly.
Then you can drill your next cover in. You can put beans in through that. The trouble with beans is that you need a lot of space. If you don't have a lot of space, do something else, because deer like beans so much they just won't let them grow.
Yeah, they will not have a chance to get to their full
now,
maturity.
what we can do is put an electric fence around one of your areas where you have beans, and it'll keep the deer off until they can get to where they can withstand browse.
Right.
The trouble with a bean is the deer wants to eat that terminal growth, and once they nip that off, it's not going to turn into anything.
Right.
Now your forage style beans, they're designed to put out more sprouts and they do a little better, but you still end up with a bean that's like 6 or 8 inches tall instead of, you know, these beans are
2 feet tall almost.
Yeah, they're a couple feet.
Yeah. Now we're talking on this particular area. This is obviously a research area. We have the ability, what Stephen does, to, you know, bring in equipment that Penn State and the Ag Resources Center has, but you know, your general John Q. public hunter, you know, may not have access to that kind of equipment. Can they still do a blend like this with a poor man's type of plot?
You can do that. If you're way out in the woods and you can't get equipment back there, there's different options. You can either go to your local farmer, talk to the NRCS. Every county has a seed drill, and they will rent that out to people who want to put cover crops in, because it's such an important thing to save soil right now. You can rent those seed drills for 50 bucks an acre. Now, you have to have a tractor that's got enough horsepower to pull that thing. So if you don't have that, the seed drill companies are getting smart, and they're making smaller and smaller seed drills to where you can pull them with a four-wheeler.
Okay.
Still expensive. So if you don't want to spend the money, now you're down to, you don't need to spend any more than 20 bucks on a bag with a turner. And you can do pretty much anything you want to do with that.
Exactly. And that's how we do a lot of our plots, because we're back into the woods. They're not really big. They're not this big of a plot.
Yeah.
And we're doing the poor man's plot where we have a seed with a turner, and we're taking back rakes and just raking away a little bit.
You don't even need a four-wheeler.
Yep.
It all depends on how many guys and how many strong backs you have.
That's exactly right.
Now, I've actually gone through a field with a weed whacker. And if I have thistle that's about to go to seed, it's in flower, I'll just knock the heads off of that. I don't even need to spray. It's just a matter of how much time and effort you want to put into it.
Very good. Okay. Well, folks, if you have any questions about how you want to set up your next food plot area, or how big the area is, or anything like that, contact us here at Wild Bout Huntin', or contact Stephen Chilcote at Stephen Chilcote Land and Timber Consultants. You'll catch him on Facebook. He's also got a YouTube channel with lots of great information. That's it for this week's Management Moment. Next week, we're going to be going to another property, talking more land management and managing for wildlife.